One of the things I like to talk to people about when it comes to why they maybe aren't achieving their goals in life or in sports or in careers or all of the above or some other thing that I'm not thinking of right now. But I like to try to get a definition from them on three things. Do you have separate definitions? And I don't mean in the strictest sense, like from a dictionary, because yes, these words all have different meanings in a dictionary. But to you, do they mean something different, or are they all basically the same thing? And those three words are responsibilities, obligations, and duties. Now, as a thought experiment, this is fun because it allows us to discuss things that maybe we've never examined before. Maybe we feel like responsibilities, obligations, and duties are all the same thing, but when we actually start talking to one another about it, we kind of come to a different conclusion. Or maybe we thought all three of them were completely different in the first place, and articulating that just helps clarify the roles of each of those. So broadly speaking, this is how I view it. If you look at responsibilities as things that you knowingly and willingly take on, you can start to look at duties as things that come with those responsibilities. And obligations inhabit this gray area that your responsibilities might require of you in order to maintain those responsibilities, or duties that you have come with embedded obligations. And this is my favorite part of the discussion, because when you start breaking down responsibilities, obligations, and duties, you start to realize that people have all three in their life, but they only really appreciate one or maybe two out of the three, and they almost always resent one out of the three, sometimes two out of the three. It makes for some interesting mental gymnastics to parse out which one is which and why a person feels that way about them. By my definition of those three words, I would categorize what I'm going to as an obligation. Now, it's an obligation I imposed upon myself, so I'm not complaining. In fact, I don't think you should complain about any one of them. Responsibilities, obligations, and duties aren't things that you necessarily should complain about. They can be problems, and they might not bring you joy, in which case you need to problem solve them. But complaining about them usually doesn't change anything. Unless complaining about them is a gateway to problem solving, then I'm all for it. I think that a little bit of complaining in your life probably helps you get to the crux of the matter, to the crux of the issue that's bothering you, and can enable some problem solving. Unless you're a chronic whiner, in which case never allow yourself to complain about things, because you just can't turn that faucet off once the water starts pouring out of it. This obligation that I'm going to right now is something that I chose for myself. It's Saturday morning, and it seemed like a good idea at the time when I signed up for this. I was interested in it, and not much of that has changed. However, when I woke up this morning, I decided that I had some other things that were more of a priority for me than attending this particular event that I'm going to. So in that way, I feel obligated to go because I did register for it, and I think that I'm on the guest list. But I have no responsibility to it, and my attendance certainly doesn't fall under the umbrella of duties. It doesn't mean that it's a waste of time to attend. My assumption is that I'm going to get some type of information out of this seminar that will be valuable to me in some way, shape, or form in the future. The only thing is that this particular forum, this seminar that I'm attending, the information that I'm going to get there is readily available elsewhere. If you ask people to group responsibilities, duties, and obligations into three separate categories and then provide examples for each of them, and then you ask that person to talk about whether they are late for any of those specific events that they've listed in those three columns, you get a really interesting result. One or two out of the three people will be late for chronically. They will be chronically late for them. And one or two of them, they will never be late for. So in today's example, using myself, I have an obligation to attend this seminar, and I'm gonna walk in pretty much right on time. If this wasn't an obligation, if I had a duty, if I was categorizing this as a responsibility to attend, I'd probably show up a half hour early. Actually, when it comes to responsibilities and duties, I generally show up about 30 minutes early for those things. When I have an obligation, I usually show up right before or right on time. And right on time is oftentimes just a little late, so that's why I avoid it. But I do know that the more things I have in my life that are obligations, the more often that I just show up exactly on time for them. The more things I have in my life that are responsibilities or duties, well, I tend to dedicate extra time to those things. Is that just a matter of language? Is it the verbiage we choose? The meanings we assign to those particular words? Is that all just syntax and semantics? Because if it is, well, we should totally take advantage of that. If all it takes to get us to take something more seriously is to recategorize it as another word using a specific definition that means something to us, then we should absolutely do so. I'm not somebody who believes in life hacks, but I do believe that words matter, definitions matter, and our belief systems inform our behaviors. So if we can tweak our behaviors just by simply altering the definitions that exist within those belief systems, hey, take advantage of that.